Thinking everyone can hear me. Hopefully they can.
Yeah, there's some thumbs up.
All right, so welcome everyone to our CAD user group meeting. So this one's actually going to be shorter than we normally have. It's obviously online only, so the past couple of times we've been in person and online, and the agenda just didn't really seem like enough to hold the in-person event. So hopefully, next year when we get our next date scheduled out, we'll get some better agendas. Which you guys can also help with that if you guys are interested in presenting at this meeting. Feel free to reach out to me and we can try to get you on the next meeting agenda. So this one, just a couple things. There's no CVDs for this meeting. It's only going to be probably less than an hour. So if you guys are expecting that, that's not going to happen for this meeting. Please mute yourselves until the open discussion. If you guys have questions before the open discussion, feel free to use the chat. And then we will post the recording on our wiki page, and we'll add this link into the chat too. So once it's over with, we'll post it. So just a couple general things. As a reminder that our emailing list is now using GovDelivery. So we'll post that link to sign up or manage. If you already signed up, you can manage your current, I guess, preferences on what you want to get emails about. But this link will go directly to the CAD topics. So that's kind of what the page will look like when you click on that link. So that's going to be how we send out all of our communication. So invites to these meetings, when we post updates, all that's going to be going through that mailing list. So another thing I wanted to mention, specific to DBEs. So in kind of response to a survey that went out to the DBE firms, basically about different software, the kind of response to that is that we're going to hold these DBE knowledge cafes, which is going to be just an open discussion with us on specific topics, and hopefully help out the DBEs in these certain areas. They will be held virtually to make it easier to join. It will be held through Teams. And then we will not be recording these. So this is on purpose. We want to be free flow of questions without concern of being recorded or anything like that. So these will not be recorded. Knowledge cafes are being hosted in a joint effort with our section as well as Office of Diversity and Inclusion and the LTAP Center. So we look forward to your participation. DBEs that filled out that survey, you guys should have already received the invites to these knowledge cafes. So we're gonna hold these knowledge cafes on the last Wednesday of each month from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. And so there you can see the dates and the topics. So the first one is really just going to be a meet and greet. The next one is going to be setting up the CAD standards. After that, go over some more details on that standards, like folder structures, file namings, and everything kind of around that area. The next one will be on custom applications, then digital signatures, and the last one will be on survey. So Teams invite should have already been sent out for all of these. So I just want to kind of give everyone a heads up. So hopefully we have some DBs listening in on this. So that's kind of my intro. And now we're going to move on to probably the main topic here, which is OHDOT's move to ORD 1012. That's gonna kind of go over some of that stuff.
Right. All right, so we wanted to talk about ODOT's move to ORD 1012. just give a little timeline here of what we were looking at. So August 10th, we had updated the version 2 workspace to be compatible with 10.12, but we didn't really go through and update all of the DGN libraries. The only thing we had updated was we added a DGN library for the civil labor. If you remember in 10.11, that was a change that Bentley had made. They moved away from the original XML file that was used to configure all those label definitions. They moved them into a DGN library. So we imported those label definitions, had to make some tweaks because some of the settings had kind of gotten lost. They're not all perfect. So if you have problems with any of them, let us know. And then there's a lot more user overrides now that are available. So you have the flexibility, or a little more flexibility than you had previously to make some changes for whatever you might be need or doing. So in the middle of August, on the 14th, we had sent an email out to the CAD mailing list about this change. And then on the next day, the 15th, we had sent an email out to any external that had logged into ODOT's project-wise data source in the last 90 days to let them know that this change is coming. Some people may not have been on that CAD mailing list. So on September 2nd, or beginning early this week, internal ODOT users were updated to 10.12. And so that's what we're running in-house now in all the districts and central office. And today, here we are in the 6th in this user group meeting. All right, so what does this, or how does this affect me? And by me, I'm more so speaking to externals or consultants at this point. ODOT has never really required externals to use a specific version of ORD. So you can move ahead of us, you can move with us, or you can stay a little bit behind us. You do need to be careful that care is taken here and make sure everyone's working on the same version using the same civil schema. So everyone on your team should be using 10.12 or 10.10, whichever one is being done. Everyone kind of needs to use that same schema, otherwise you're going to have some compatibility issues. So the sync tool that will download your standards for you will also, or can help you manage that and make sure that you have the right DGN libraries for the desired schema there. And there's just a screenshot of that version control drop down within that app. We're not going to go into that functionality or how to demo that or do that today, but there are plenty of videos out there for that. So what should I do? Again, I would be a consultant. What should you do here? We feel there's two options that you can do. Maintain that single ODOT version 2 workspace copy. Update all your users to ODOT ORD 10.12. Update that workspace to 10.12. And then let your projects, your DGN files begin to get updated as people open them with the new civil schema here. I suppose you might be able to also run a batch process and maybe open up those files and not have to deal with it every time a file is open for the first time. That's up to you. The second option here would be to maintain multiple copies of that version 2 workspace, one for each schema you want to use. Again, you'll use that sync tool to manage the civil schema there. And then you would do side-by-side installs for the ORD versions for each user. So you would have 10.10 installed, maybe 10.11 if you have that, or we're using that for projects, and then 10.12. Set up multiple workspace copies for each civil schema there. Just as a reminder, we never had a schema for the workspace for 10.11.
Like a child.
And then projects or work sets would then be specific to a workspace. So users would need to know which version of the workspace to use for a given project. And then you would have to configure those, or additional configuration could be done to help accidentally opening one with a different schema. And JD did a presentation on that. Amazing. That's been 2 years ago now on the side-by-side installs and some of the recommendations we have there. So those two previous slides were sort of talking about how to manage the workspace and the versions if you're not working in Maybe you're working in your own project-wise data source, or you're not working in project-wise at all. But what if you're working inside of ODOT's project-wise data source? We don't, and we never have dictated which ORD version was to be used. So if you're inside of project-wise, you do need to use the version that's compatible with the workspace. So we are not maintaining multiple copies of the workspace in project-wise. We're only going to keep up to date. Well, our workspace in there is going to be our latest workspace.
Oh, nice.
So what needs to be done here? So if you're an ODOT employee, everything's taken care of for you. No action needs to be done. ORD should have been pushed to your machine over the weekend, or if not, yesterday. And if you're not an ODOT employee and you're using ORD within ODOT's project-wise data source, you will need to have 1012 installed in your machine. Right, pretty much right now, as of last week. So what if you don't want to update? Again, we're not maintaining multiple copies of that workspace in our data source to use each version. So if you don't want to update, you may end up running into compatibility issues with files on our project data source. So, what if I still need to use 1012 or 1010 or other versions of ORD for other clients? So again, you can ORD supports those side-by-side installs since the release of 1010. So you can have multiple versions installed. And when you open, if you're working in our data source and you open files, you can simply right click, say open with, and then make sure you select the version you want to use, which should be 1012 at this point.
Oh, with the,
Again, there's more information on side-by-side installs on this. I think that's an event wiki page we're linking to.
couple big,
And what if I can't update until after September 2nd? So kind of two things you're going to watch out for. If you're working on a project that's in our, if you're working on a project in our ODOT project-wise data stores that maybe a district user is also working on, or maybe even other sub-consultants for that project are working on, you may run into some compatibility issues with files being edited as they start to get their civil schema updated. So you need to be aware of that. Usually referencing everything should be okay, but I'm sure there's going to be some glitch or pickup somewhere where the file schema may not come through correctly if it's not updated. Currently, that workspace is compatible with ORD 1010. So at the moment, like I said earlier when I started that timeline, everything else other than the civil label or DGN library is compatible with 1010. And that was as of August 10th. So we're going to try and hold off on some major changes to any of those DGN libraries for now. Eventually, we're not going to be able to hold back. We're going to have to update some of those for the correct schema and move on. So for now, we're going to try to give a little bit of buffer time here as we transition. Make sure that it's compatible for everybody. And in the last year, I guess the only thing I'll add to this, it seems like we've had a lot more consultants jumping into our project-wise data sources we had in the past. So changes like this are going to become more important that we communicate these appropriately to everyone. So I think that was it. Go back to JD.
Looks like we got some background noise going on. Hey, Adam, you wanna go around the corner and just see if they could be a little quieter, nicely? That's not nice. Okay, sorry, we're in a conference room. And maybe in the future we go to more of a closed door so we don't get that background noise. So I guess a couple questions coming in. It seemed like, and one of the questions was, so if we're working inside ODOT's data source, do we have to move to 1012? And yeah, that's the general gist. So we're not, our workspace, we're not going to support multiple workspaces. and keep each one tied to certain projects, and then you have to know which project you're using, which version of ORD. We're not going down that road. That doesn't mean you guys can't if you're outside of our data source, but that's the way we're moving forward. So as Matt just alluded to in the last slide, these are your two main concerns, right? So we're going to try to hold off. The biggest concern is when we actually update our workspace and we update those DJN libs for the new schema. Once we do that, you're going to tell right away if you're in 1010, you're going to start seeing problems. So that's the bigger one. The first one hopefully isn't as big of an issue, but you might run into that more. So there's those two things to look out for. Like I said, one more time is we're going to try to hold off to give people more time to update to 1012. Your alternative option is to just not work inside our data source. So hopefully that's clear to everyone. But I did want to go over one more thing with a problem that has, I guess, been introduced with the project-wise managed workspace. Once you get into MicroStation Update 17 or newer, so that would be OpenRose Designer 10.11 or newer. So since that Power Platform update, they introduced something called managed configuration. I don't know if you saw it or not, but that managed configuration is really for outside of project-wise, and you can set multiple configuration locations. But when they added that, it broke managed workspaces inside project-wise. And so we already submitted this to Bentley as a defect. And I wanted to go over a couple of different workarounds and how we can fix that problem. First thing, what you're going to notice is you're going to get this error message right here. Something very similar to this, saying it failed to generate the managed workspace configuration file. And then if you were to try to open it in 1010, you notice you won't have that problem with the same exact configuration. So you pretty clearly tell it was introduced from MicroStation Update 17 or newer. So some ways to fix it. The first thing that we were told was to lock some of the workspace variables higher in the config, but that really wasn't going to work with the way we dynamically find our configuration with the way we're set up. So that one isn't really a viable solution. The best solution that we have is to clear and lock these two variables, your USTN cache CFG and cache WS CFG. So I have a little screenshot, probably a little pixelated, but basically what it would look like is set it equals 0, lock it, set it equals 0, unlock it for those two variables. This has to be defined at the predefined configuration settings block level for it to work. Okay. Did a lot of testing at trying to see where we could set these, and it seemed like if you set them lower, it either just wouldn't fix it, or you get some other error message coming up. So that should fix the error. What we did notice though, in some, and I got a typo here, some cases we did see this error message on the right side here pop up when you actually closed out of ORD. And once you hit the check-in or the free, this would come up. But it wasn't every time. And I think it is partly dependent on how the rest of your configuration is set up, because in our data source, we are not seeing this message come up anymore. But I figured everyone that's in ProjectWise might have something different set up. So I did want to kind of point that out and maybe test this in your testing data source before you roll it out and see if you're getting this message or not. I couldn't quite figure out the exact cause, and now I can't reproduce it on my end, but at one point we were getting that. But this, I think, would be the best solution for you guys. Just lock that up high. And so there is a downfall, which I'll get to here in a second. But I want to talk about kind of some other solutions and how to fix this, and it might help you kind of troubleshoot a little bit better. So manual fix to this would just be to go and delete the cache.ucf file. This will be found in your user preferences location. So I have an example path there listed. So it'd be in your user folder, app data, local, Bentley, Open Rose Designer, and then you might see like 10.0.0 and then underbar X. You might not. And inside that preference folder, you should see this cache.ucf file. So that file gets updated basically every single time you open a DGN file, or I guess load a configuration rather. Every time you load a new configuration, it will update that to store the last used configuration. So this file is what we've pinned down to the problem. So if you are getting that error and you go to your user preferences and you delete that, problem goes away. But that's only temporary fix because the next time you open it up, that file is getting recreated, right? And so what we found was that the error message only pops up when you're switching workspaces. So if your last used configuration is the same workspace that you're loading currently, you won't see this error pop up in a managed workspace. But if you're switching that configuration, the last used, when you switch that workspace, that's when that's popping up. So again, setting these two variables at the predefined levels seems to fix that problem. But if you don't have that set, that's what you're going to see happening. So we found that if you're switching work sets within the same workspace, it's not popping up. But the second you switch to a different workspace, that's when it was really popping up. So the other thing I want to mention, which I don't know if you really need to do, especially if this solution is working for you, but if for some reason maybe it's not, or you're getting this message, we did throw together a quick VBA that basically just deletes the cache.ucf file on open. So I would say this isn't really the preferred or the best fix, but it could work to get things rolling. So there are a couple of downfalls with this, which I'll go through real quickly. First of all, if you're running our workspace or just any workspace inside or and outside of ProjectWise, if this VBA isn't running everywhere, it's not going to fix the problem completely. So the name of it is Startup Managed WS Fix Workspace Fix MVBA. You can download it right here. There's a link we'll post in the chat if you want to download it. To configure it, you need to just set these two variables. Pretty self-explanatory. It's best to put that in the predefined level. That way, no matter what configuration you're running, this will get run to delete that UCF file there. If you're running it outside of ProjectWise too, then maybe you throw it into the organization level. That way, it's going to get ran no matter what configuration you're running. But do note that this whole fix is deleting that cache.ucf file, so you will lose the last used configuration. So you won't notice that inside ProjectWise because it doesn't use that. But outside ProjectWise, when you load up the startup screen, typically it has the last used configuration there. That is coming from this cache.ucf file. So if you're deleting it, you're no longer going to see that get repopulated for you. So that's one of the downfalls. With deleting the cache UCF versus clearing out those variables higher up in the configuration. So that's available, but again, I still think the best solution is just clearing these out at the predefined level. But I wanted to just throw that up there since we already made it before we really fine-tuned the actual fix. But I want to be clear, this is only for Managed Workspace inside ProjectWise, right? So if you're not running ProjectWise, this is not a problem for you guys. I just want to be clear. And what else do I want to talk about? So here's some downfalls, which I already went over. The last thing is, unfortunately, our main workspace config file was resetting this one VBA auto load variable. So it means if you're setting those variables that you said you had to set to use this at organization level, well, it's going to get cleared out. So we fixed this problem in our V2 workspace. So if you're not up to date, just get up to date and you'll notice that the workspace config file has been fixed. But if you're still running our V1 workspace. We retired it, so that's still a problem in that workspace. So you just have to go in to that config file and basically change the equal sign to either a less than or a greater than sign. And here's a little screenshot of that area of the config file. So you're just changing this equal to a less than or equal sign. That way you won't lose any settings to that variable prior to this config file. Hopefully that made sense to people it needed to make sense to. But again, we've fixed this in V2, and then inside our data source, we currently have this VBA running, but I think we're gonna take that off and just utilize this two variables shortly here. And if we start seeing these messages pop up, then we'll probably add that back in to auto run. I don't like running things on open through VBA. I don't like to. I feel like that's where you start having problems with third-party apps. But in a pinch, it can get you working. All right, so we did also put together a wiki page on this topic with all these solutions and more of a kind of wiki page format on our wiki page. So there's a link we'll post in the chat to that. If you want to take more look at that, if you guys are maybe the project-wise administrators or the CADD administrators, to kind of get more details on how you can fix this error if you guys are running into it. Maybe you guys have already fixed it, especially if you're already on 10.12. But with that, let me make sure there's pause for any questions.
Okay.
We're good. So other than that, hopefully you guys will find that already 10.12 is better than 10.10. I know there's a lot of enhancements that were updated, which is why we felt like this little configuration hiccup wasn't enough to prevent us from moving to 10.12 to get all of those fixes and updates. So with that, I'll move on to the last topic, which is just quick updates on our volume 3, just in case you guys weren't aware. We'll put the link into the volume 3. One thing that we added recently was the ability to search the web page directly, so you don't have to open the PDF. So you'll now notice that there's this little area at the top when you go to our page, and if you click on that, that'll bring up a searchable page. When you first land on that landing page, they're kind of broken up by sections, and you can't use Control F to search the whole document because they're broken up into sub pages. So that's kind of nice. What I really thought was nice was just an edge feature, is that you can link to, I don't even think it's an edge feature, I think it's just a browser feature. You can highlight anything, and you can create a link to that highlighted area and send it to someone, and it'll open it up with that area highlighted. So gives you a little bit more ability to send someone directly to the location you want them to see and have it highlighted. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I figured I'd mention that now that we have this more of a web view of our manual. You can still open the PDF. There's a link to open the PDF as well. But figured I'd note that. Hopefully everyone knows this, but I figured while I got you guys all, I'll remind everyone about the SS800 date. I think we've said it a couple times. It's a little bit back and forth. Sorry for the changing back and forth, but we did previously change it so that this SS800 date was actually put on the proposal, and you put C proposal on the title sheet. And we are now walking back from that change and putting the date back on the title sheet. So everything you submit now, you should be putting that date back on the title sheet and no longer put C proposal. The standard construction drawing app was already updated to get rid of that. So if you haven't updated your standards, you want to update it, and then it'll actually put the date. Just like it did before, you have the functionality to change what update Friday or DRC update date you wanted to put. But please hopefully make sure you guys are catching those before you submit them, that there should actually be a date and should not say C proposal anymore. Just another note on that is there's always kind of questions about what date that should be. Ideally, in a perfect world, that should be the most current date at the time you file it. But in, I guess, larger projects, or depending on what was actually updated, there might be things that affected your design and you might not have enough time or resources to incorporate those latest spec changes. So it's kind of understood that doesn't have to be the latest, but we really want to avoid having something that's, 5, 6 years old spec date. We want to make sure that out of construction, they're using the latest specs, but we do have the understanding that it could affect your design. So try to keep it, relatively new. The newest is the ideal situation. So hopefully there's no more questions on that. I'll move on. Our update that happened recently was we actually moved our electronic deliverables document into L&D. So it's now section 1600 of L&D. So before it was its own separate document. Now it's directly inside the L&D volume 3. But the content hasn't changed. We just moved it and fixed some links around. So that happened back on the last DRC update. So if you guys didn't know that, now you know. We still have the electronic deliverables webpage open, but you'll notice that it just says that this document has moved. So if you guys have hyperlinks to that, I want to go and fix them. So I don't know if we're going to keep that up forever, but for the time being, it's still there as I guess a website that will redirect you. Last thing kind of go over here is the next change that's going to be happening to L&D Volume 3 is we're actually going to move our CAD Engineering Standards Manual into L&D Volume 3. That's targeted for the January update. We're also working on updating outdated language throughout the manual. So hopefully you guys are kind of seeing we're taking a conscious effort to combine manuals and not have you go to links, 5, 10 different places. We're trying to minimize those locations and centralize that information. So hopefully you guys are seeing that. It's just a slow process. With that was really the bulk of our meeting. I wanted to make sure you guys got those couple updates. I don't know if there's any questions coming in, but we're going to check here. Bid policy for any existing projects that are not an OHDOT project server. Oh, and that's already answering that one.
You can rehash it if you want.
At what stage of design phase should consultants keep projects in 1010? So, that choice, I guess, is more on the project team, and I don't know exactly what you said, but I think we inside of our organization have made a determination that we're going to be okay with updating to 1012 and not letting our projects update. But I get that there's concern out there from consultants. I've heard in previous schema updates that they've held projects, and if that's something you guys want to do, you can do that. That's why we said in the beginning, we've never actually came out and dictated you have to use a certain version of ORD, right? We've always left that open-ended. We already know it's hard enough dealing with multiple states and different requirements. We didn't want to make another requirement on you guys. Now, the only exception to that is if you're inside a data source. We've already made that decision. We're not going to maintain those multiple workspaces copies to support side-by-side installs. So hopefully that answers your question. It's really up to you and how you guys want to handle those projects. If it's a really big project and you're worried about something like that, then stick around. Now, the other downfall to that is you're not going to get those workspace updates for 1010, right? The next time we add a feature definition, it's going to be in 1012 schema. So you hold those projects back, then you're not going to get those newer updates. You're not going to have that ability to utilize those new features of ORD. But so that's a choice that's on you guys. Hopefully that answers your questions and it's something that you guys agree to and like that we have that stance. So can the CAD, can the link to the ODOT CAD discussion forum be made more public? Seems like a good place for tips, tricks, issues, and more traffic. So it is public. Our wiki page is public. The forum is public. I think you do have to sign in with the Bentley account to actually make a post, but you should still be able to see it. And technically you can create it. If you, for some reason you don't have a Bentley account, you could create a free one. You wouldn't get access to any licensing or anything, but that should give you the ability to log in and post at least.
If you have any suggestions on how to make it more open and available to people, please let us know.
We have had some internal discussions about the wiki page organization. So I'm hesitant to change around too much since people already know how it's set up, but put links in all emails.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, we can start adding those links to the wiki page. I think at the bottom of my email signature, I have the email list sign up, but yep. That wiki page, we do have a lot of resources on that communities page. It's always a good resource. So with that, I think, we're gonna stick around here for open discussion. Hopefully everyone doesn't try to talk at once, or you guys can stay in the chat, or whatever you guys
Raise
feel
your
like.
hand in the chat.
Raise
We
your
can
hand
maybe
or
do
something,
it that way.
I was wondering how this was gonna go, but feel free if you guys have questions, concerns, comments. We're all here listening. So this PowerPoint I will post it on that same wiki page that we posted at the beginning where the recording's gonna be on our wiki page. I think the link should be like the first link we posted.
I've got it.
We got it, Kyle's got it. We can repost that link. But we always post the PowerPoint with it, so we did go to that wiki page. Under training resources, the CAD user group meetings, you can see all the previous ones. So this one, nothing's there yet. When you go like the last one, there's PowerPoint download, there's a recording. And there's not always links, but sometimes we put the links there as well. So
Click on the forums page and show them where they can post.
okay, yeah,
information.
it's good. So we do have this forum section. It's definitely not utilized that much, but we do get emails when someone posts there. Right now, we just have 3 kind of categories. This is configuration, open roads, and microstation. So you can easily come here, sign in. And you can ask a question. So we don't always answer. Sometimes a community member answers the post too. That is another way to get a hold of us as well. I didn't know we had ideas. Oh,
Because he probably created it.
2016. And then I also post our announcements here too. So we have user group meeting. I'll post it there as well. Yeah, everyone should come here and bookmark the page, join the page.
You can turn notifications on for all those
sure,
pages too, so if
yeah.
a post is made,
Yeah.
you can see all that stuff.
If you guys want to get notified when we do make posts, that's one way to do it. Right here in the forum. That go. I actually get into it forum. So mine says turn off, but you can turn on notifications. You can bookmark the page.
Ask if you could show the slide for that cache variable again.
Oh yeah.
While he's doing that, you can also add notifications for the wiki content too. So if we post something new there, that would give you an email that there's a new page or something.
Yeah.
Joe's got his hand up as well.
All right. As I cover it back up, right? Need more screens. We can put, yeah, I can put the variables in the chat too.
Hey JD, this
Hey,
is
go ahead,
Joe.
Joe.
I've got a question for you guys. I asked it in the chat. I asked it
One
in the
second,
chat.
1 second, Joe, we can't hear you.
How's the audio going over there? Says the speakers are going down. Oh, wait. Okay, try again.
All right, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
I asked this in the chat right after it started, may got missed, but with the update to civil labeler, will are the new feature definitions and text favorites, are they gonna take advantage of the mass text that you guys have available? Currently, our previous versions, they did not.
No,
Okay,
you can override those styles if you want, but for the time being, they will not.
is that something in the future plan to update or no?
If anyone's ever talked to me about mask text before, they know that I'm not a huge fan of it, but I feel like it makes your sheets look sloppy when your text just gets placed anywhere. But I guess I could go either way. If the majority really want it, we could do that. But at the current moment, all those are set on the text favorite, so we'd have to go update all of those. And then I think you also have to define the text style in the civil labeler definition, which with 10.12 now, the user has the ability to override that when they're placing it. So if you really want that, you could select a different style.
All right, fair enough. Thank you.
Yep.
Changing the camera to the owl. Yeah, you guys don't want to just stare at my face the whole time.
There will probably be a number of updates to the civil labeler DGM library coming. And if you find anything or notice anything that needs addressed, feel free to let us know. I've been so far taking care of everything except for the drainage and utilities part. So JD's been handling the other those.
And there's definitely a lot of updates that are in the queue to be made for 10.12, like around drainage. Like the ability in 10.12 was added so that you can actually show the pipe extents in plan view and profile view. So we're going to go through all those feature definitions and change those settings, which will really help the plan view out a lot. It won't look so bad trying to show the 3D, because that was the only real way to do it, other than mainly drawing in your lines. But so we got a long list of updates to make for 10.12.
Anything else?
So I'll throw another pitch out there for the next user group meeting. If anyone is interested in presenting, showing off a cool project, you have that opportunity.
I think there's a big design build project in southwestern Ohio that someone might be able to demo something they're doing on that, right?
And I'm still working on having a kind of a contractor perspective to the group. Just schedules aren't lining up, but hopefully one of these meetings will have that. I think that'll be very valuable, so you guys can see how they're using the data, why they want the data, kind of give us a better idea of why these electronic deliverables requirements coming into play. Are they really using my data? What are they using it for? So I think that'd be a great presentation. So hopefully one of these meetings we have next year, we can get that to happen. Chat one more time. Yep, there he goes. Look at that, perfect timing. Yeah, that project wise there was, until you know how to fix it, kind of annoying. So, I really was hoping for a true fix to be implemented by Bentley. I think they tried to, last I heard, they had it fixed in the project wise 2023, and then they took it out because it broke something else. So that it did not get released. So I don't know if a true fix is going to come, but it seems like that those two variables are at the predefined level are going to do the trick.
Yeah, thanks Kyle for posting that. That support request page is probably the best way to get in touch with us. If we're out on vacations and whatnot, or out of the office for some reason or another, someone else can pick that up. We do have some folks that are going to be in and out of the office coming up, so.
All right. Well, I don't want to just have dead airspace going on for too long for the people watching this recording. So, if you guys have nothing else, we'll end this meeting. Again, sorry, I'd like to see you guys in person, but just wasn't a long enough meeting to validate that. So hopefully next time we can see you guys' faces. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us using that support request or the wiki or the form on our communities page. But have a good rest of the day.